Hello, my friends. John Wilson here. And hey, it's that time of year again. It's time to start assessing your equipment needs for next year and make some purchases on behalf of Uncle Sam. Well, I'm here to tell you that my friends here at Ivoclar have really sharpened their pencils and are offering some of the best deals of the year on mills and furnaces. As an owner of several of these great pieces of technology, I can tell you firsthand that you won't be disappointed. We're talking about robust and dependable machines that make you more efficient. We certainly count on them daily here at Sunrise. So do yourself a favor, make that call today. You'll be glad you did.
And of course, we appreciate Ivoclar for their continued support. Welcome to Voices from the Bench, a dental laboratory podcast. Send us an email at info@voicesfromthebench.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Greetings and welcome to episode 349 of Voices from the Bench. My name is Elvis.
My name is Belle Barbara. Can you hear my bells?
I do hear your bells. Somebody's
Yeah.
in the holiday spirit.
I'm trying. This is maybe the first year that I've ever even considered decorating this early, and my happy ass is decorating today, and it's Saturday, so yes. And when I decorate, I got to wear my hat and my bells and everything pretty much I can find. So yeah, how are you?
I'm doing really good. Had a good Thanksgiving. We're still in our 4-day weekend, so I've been sleeping a lot. Had to go on my first 27-degree run.
Ooh.
It was pretty awful, but that is the time we're in.
I thought you were going to say today. How is it today?
It's actually colder. I'm waiting for it to warm up.
Well, guess what? It's 52. And I love it.
Jeez.
I know. I know you're jealous, but I love 52 in Florida. It's unbelievable.
50 is a great running weather.
Mm-hmm.
Even into the 40s, I consider great. But once you get down to that 32 and below,
Yeah.
gets a little harder. I woke up this morning with 17 degrees. Thought I would wait it out. I think it's supposed to get up to 28. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Well, we've got 6 whole days of like 60s during the day and 40s to 50s at night. And normally when we get a cold front, and we get it for like one day if we're lucky. So we're going to have a week. So I'm excited.
Nice. What are you going to do? Decorate your palm trees or how does that work?
No. I'm just going to decorate my whole house, get a tree. I'm working really hard on getting some cheer in my household, as you know. So yeah, it's important.
Do you do the live tree or do you do a fake tree?
Live all the way.
Nice.
$100, stroke that check, and I get to smell it, and I love it. So yeah, I always did a live tree growing up, and so my boys and I do a live tree now.
There you go.
Yep. So how was your Thanksgiving?
Pretty uneventful. Went out to eat at the restaurant and came home, and I think I took a 3-hour nap. So.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah. How about you?
Same. Had a good Thanksgiving. It was lovely. What
was odd is we actually had somebody join the Golden Bench Club on Thanksgiving.
The best of the best, above all the rest. They are the definition of amazing dental technicians. They gave us 5 stars. That makes them superstars. Welcome to the Golden Bench Club.
I see that.
Isn't that strange? I mean, I thought it was strange until I realized the person's not in America.
Yeah, exactly. So not everybody celebrates Thanksgiving.
Sure, and, tend to forget that. And I'm like, well, that person's probably just having some random Thursday. So, but just a reminder, if anyone wants to get into the Golden Bench Club, which is probably the coolest club to be in right now, all you have to do is leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Now, if you don't use Apple Podcasts or you're in another country like this one, then you can just take a screenshot of that review and then just email it to us at info@voicesfromthebench.com, and then we're going to read it on the podcast just like we're about to do now.
So this entry is from Eric Kato. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. He says, I am a dental technician in Japan. I recently found this podcast via social media and have been listening to past episodes when you and I were probably not very good back then. But while my English is not great and I have to look up words, I love hearing about how other technicians around the world handle situations that we all deal with. Please keep up the good work. Thank you, Eric, and welcome to the Golden Bench Club.
Welcome to the Golden Bench Club.
That's
Awesome.
a very
Thanks,
prestigious club, in case you guys know.
You're learning English from us. You got a whole other set of problems.
You might be getting bleeped a little bit, but that's the F word, in case you were wondering.
So this week we meet two brothers that took separate but similar paths to open Diamondhead Dental Lab. In high school, Darin Swartz' neighbor was a good friend with John Archibald. Now, for those that don't know, John had an apprenticeship program that produced a lot of really good technicians. Now, after just one visit, Darin knew he wanted to get involved, and after going through the program, he eventually opened up Swartz Dental Lab. Why would you not open a lab
I know.
after your last name?
I agree.
I mean, come on. Mine would just be Elvis, though.
Yeah.
Mike Swartz, his brother, saw that what he was doing and decided he also wanted to go through the program. Now, you would think Mike would join his brother, but they actually decided to have separate labs, but in a commonly shared space.
Love it.
Yeah, it was so interesting. Now, after the introduction of technology, they actually needed to come together, and that's when Diamondhead Dental was born. Created on the importance of culture, they wanted to instill the same passion and importance of quality that they shared. Always following their North Star, Darin and Mike wanted to be partners to their dental offices by building relationships and trust. It's such a great story.
I know.
So join us as we chat with Darin and Mike Swartz. Voices from the Bench. The interview.
I'm ready.
That's what we like about her. We'd like to welcome to the podcast the two gentlemen that started Diamondhead Dental Lab, Darin and Mike Swartz? No, that's not right. What is it?
Good. Swartz, not bad.
I went instantly to the Schwartz be with you, but I know that's not right. How do you say your last name?
We say it's Swartz. Yeah.
Swartz.
But you can call us whatever you want. We don't care.
All right. Well, welcome.
Thank you for joining us. How is everybody?
Doing really well.
All right.
Yeah, we're excited to be here and talk about things.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. Your lab is pretty well known. I mean, it's a good-sized lab. It's got a long history. I know you two have been at it for a while, and that's how we like to usually start. So
Yep.
I don't know who wants to go first. Who's older? Let's start there.
Well, Mike looks older, but I'm older.
Okay, Darin. Great way to put it. Darin.
If you could see us, you'd be confused.
So, how did you all get into this business? There has to be a history here.
Yeah, it's been so long, it feels like I almost forgot. My neighbor across the street, his very best friend is John Archibald.
Oh,
Shut
wow.
up.
You're kidding me.
So I'm sure you guys know John.
Oh,
yeah, of
For
course.
sure.
Yeah. So when I was in high school, I originally wanted to be an orthodontist, and I was talking to my neighbor Mike, who's John's buddy. He's like, "Hey, if you're interested in that industry, I need to introduce you to somebody." And so when I was really young, I went down to John's lab and just walked around, and it just kind of hooked me. I was really fascinated with the things that he was doing, and
Yeah.
maybe it was John's personality that trapped me in. Just such a funny guy.
What was his lab like back then? I mean, we're talking what, 80s?
We're
90s?
talking 87.
Wow.
87.
Yeah.
And it was when I was a senior in high school, way back.
Yeah.
So,
That's when I graduated, by the way.
oh, is it?
Yep.
Yeah,
For sure.
we're young, right?
Yes.
But he was he's in house with Gordon Christensen, and his lab was probably hold maybe 10 people at that time. And he had his little, his apprenticeship and training program.
I was wondering if he was doing it back then. Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I believe that was more of like the height of when he was doing it.
Sure.
Yeah, he had a long waiting list. I think a few years for people to come to his and, be a part of his program. So I was able just to meet him, and a few years later ended up there and had that opportunity to be right there side by side with John for over a year. So
You did his apprenticeship then.
I did. Yeah.
So what was that? So you were what, just out of high school or 2 years out of high school? And what was that? Like, what did he have going on that you learned?
Well, it was pretty intense. I mean, the structure of his program was very just right there next to him. He'd call us over, show us, but for instance, there was really no book work. We weren't learning, words or expressions within the industry. That came as we worked, and we absorbed that as we kind of went along. But I think the first 3 months was just waxing.
Wow.
He was very, John's a very terrific technician. So I think the first 3 months we just waxed and waxed and waxed because we couldn't move forward until we passed off a full mouth of teeth in perfect morphology, function, occlusion. So we had to do an upper lower full arch to his satisfaction before we could move on in the industry. Back then, everything was analog.
Yeah.
So way different than what we're doing these days.
Yeah, I bet.
And, you guys already know that. So we would just go step by step from waxing. We went into copings and casting and opaquing and layering porcelain. And he was very, I want you to be an in-house lab and very high end and boutique. And so he taught, his program was really great. It really prepared us. So I started the lab about a year after I began with John and went in-house with the doctor up in Layton, Utah. And then Mike followed me about 4 years later.
I went through same program. Ironically enough, I and Darin had the same career goals and didn't know it. So I wanted to go into dentistry. He wanted to go into orthodontistry, which is super weird. We're brothers. So
why did both of you want to get
you
into
serious?
dentistry?
Yeah, that
Who
was.
knows? I don't know what I was thinking back then.
Yeah.
No family member was in it or anything?
No.
Interesting.
I don't know I don't even remember where my interest for dentistry came. I don't know. I went through all the pain of orthodontistry, so you'd think that that's the last thing I'd want to do as a kid. But, that was the similar career goal. And shortly after high school, it just seemed really natural and easy for me because, Darin had just went through the school, had a good experience. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know that I want to go through all this school and dental school. Get me in John's program. And so
there you go.
We met 4 years later. I went through, and his program looked exactly the same. Mike Archibald was his son at the time, was kind of going through the program and helping the new students with waxing. And so that was kind of his beginning too. So I was there kind of at the same time. Mike, I think it was 19 at the time, was going through that. And
that's nuts.
That was really the foundation for me and Darin. But, the one thing John said is, I'm teaching you to become a small boutique lab. Don't even try to become a bigger lab unless you figure out how to do business. So that resonated with me. And, some days I think I should have listened to John.
So did you both just instantly love it? Like the whole creative part of it? Because obviously you're businessmen now, but the technical part of it, you just were you a very good waxer when you started? Did it take you a while to kind of get it?
I think I knew personally, I can speak for me, this is Mike. Yeah, I think the art of it drew me in for sure. And the fact that I had a head start and I cheated before I went to John's and worked with Darin for 3 or 4 months and started waxing. Yeah. Didn't tell John. So when I walked in, he was super impressed. It became pretty evident through using him as a mentor that there was a talent there. And there was absolutely a passion for it. Nobody would ever be in this industry for 30 years unless they have some sort of passion or they're completely
clueless,
desperate and clueless. Yeah.
I would agree with
They hate themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think this is the same for me. I think I immediately caught on, but clearly loved it. I pretty much geeked out on all of it from the start. And it's really interesting now because we got to such a high level with our skill set. And, when you become good, you also become fast. The hardest thing for me was letting go of that. So right now it's almost like I have to do a crown for my soul once in a while because I'm out of production because so much was put into the art of it all. And, back then we're layering and doing everything by hand, and all those 15 powder bakes and just kind of crazy stuff that people, the younger generation, really look at us with a strange look and like, you're doing what? How'd you do that?
Yes. And you're not on the computer and you're not designing something. And I like the fact that you
Yeah.
said for your soul, because that totally resonates with me. If you really love it, like you really get that.
Yeah, it's hard to think back what we all used to do and how did we even have time to do it and ever make any money? It's a weird thought.
Well, we pretty much live there, I
Because it
think.
feels so inefficient. Yeah.
So what do you do after the program?
Well, I immediately went in-house and started a lab, and I don't know how I paid. I literally was down at John's every week because making that jump and all of a sudden receiving all these cases, I don't know how many all-nighters I did back to back for the first few months, because so many mistakes were being made. But I do know this, I was going in the hole because I was paying those guys down there to finish cases for me. I go down and talk to Craig or John or his brother Rich, and I'm like, guys, this is due. I've done it 8 times. I need someone to finish this. And then they would charge me.
Yeah.
So I was going in the hole for like 4 months.
So you opened up a lab in a doctor's office?
I did. Yeah.
And how did you meet
In
this
the
dentist? Of course, it's always in the basement.
Yeah.
How did you make this connection?
John was really great at taking care of his students and introducing you to people. So he had been talking. His name was Dr. Glenn McMillan. I know him and his son do. I think they're down at Roseman University in Utah still.
I feel like I know that name, honestly.
Yeah, really great people. And he just kind of gave me a shot and gave me a chance. So he was building a new building. And so he built me a really nice big lab, and it could hold 15 people, and it was just me.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, and
that's not a building, that's a complex.
Well, back then it felt really big, but I was in that room about a month ago. I'm like, holy crap, this is small. How did I do that? So yeah, he just gave me a shot, and I just all grit, really. You guys know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, did you own the business, or did he supply it and you were an employee?
No, I purchased all new equipment. Wow. I literally started from scratch.
You're looking at your brother going, all right, grow up, hurry up, I need you.
I was.
That's exactly what happened.
You done yet?
Yeah. I came off of a 2-year mission, and he's like, okay, first weekend back, I need you waxing. I know you're going to John's. Let's get this going right now.
Yeah.
Well, here's a funny story. So Mike starts with me, and this is probably 3 months after he got back. He got married very quickly when he got home, and immediately I'm like, Mike, these cases are due. We got to be here over the weekend. And he looked at me with the weirdest look, and his wife got mad. Mike doesn't work on the weekends.
Yep.
And that was the last weekend at home for the rest of my life.
So yeah, he got thrown into the fire, and it was funny from my perspective, not his. But
so, what was the name of that lab? Was that Diamondhead?
It was Swartz Dental Arts. So we combined, and we had a unique situation where we shared accounts, but we also were separate. So Mike had his own accounts as time went on. I had my own accounts, but we helped each other and shared all the equipment and expenses. But we were independent at the end. For sure.
Wow.
What made you decide to do that? That's an interesting kind of, we don't want to be together.
An easy answer was we were brothers and we wanted to stay with a good relationship. Now, it's a funny thing. We're obviously partners now, but we had to figure it out as brothers and family, and we had to figure out, how to work together. And so, in hindsight, it couldn't have been a more perfect path because we helped each other, and we had the benefit of being essentially a 2-man lab, even though we were filing as sole proprietors. And so we could actually leave town and have someone to take care of it. And as a very, very small high-end boutique lab, it worked out pretty well. Kind of the beginning phases of a future really big partnership. So
how long did you guys do that for independently before you guys realized that you would be better together?
About 15 years too long.
Wow. Really?
15 years, you guys?
So I started my lab in 91, and in about 2009, and what dictated that was technology. it was the consolidation happening around us. And all of a sudden I opened my eyes and found myself in this little bubble. And it was a doctor that kind of really opened my eyes. Like I said, we were a really high-end lab, and I looked around my lab and thought, where's all of his posterior work? What is going on? And it dawned on me one day, and I talked to him, and he immediately said, oh, we have to talk. And he bought an iTero. And
CEREC.
CEREC and
and
iTero. And we didn't have those workflows at the time. And he started sending stuff to Glidewell. And that name was the devil to me.
Yeah.
Back then.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even wrap my head around that account sending any type of crown or restoration to Glidewell. And it was purely a business decision. And that's what kind of started this journey. Because I'm like, whoa, everything's changing. And I've had my eyes closed. That's when this whole journey started, and we started to transform our lab and change our model, and thousands of hours of continuing education. I feel like flying around the country and world learning all on score. And we were a fixed lab. That's it. High-end fixed. So we had to learn removable. And, now we're full service and have.
Yeah.
So both of you had to dig in and learn other stuff. So what'd you do? Just check courses off and go, like you said, all over the United States to learn all this stuff?
Yeah. Back then, you didn't have all this availability of the internet and all these resources. So you had to go in person.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what we did. And that's the pivotal moment that changed everything. Disruption of technology.
Yeah. The doctor sending work to Glidewell, and all of a sudden you were like, holy shit, we got to come to the party here.
Yeah. We saw things consolidating too in the industry, and we saw labs struggling. We saw the effects of CEREC. We decided to embrace that rather than to be upset at Sirona and CEREC, and said, you know what, there's an opportunity here. It's going that way. We better figure out how we fit into the opportunity rather than fight against it. So
nice.
Thank goodness we embraced the technology. We fought it for a minute though, like all the technicians back then did.
Yeah.
And hope that it wasn't going to click. But thank goodness it did.
Yeah, so we had a little bit different approach. We would, rather than try and make our doctors feel bad about introducing CEREC to their practice, we really actually encouraged it and wanted to help them. So, for me, I needed to be the expert and have more knowledge than the doctor, so I could be a value add and a resource to them to help them and show them the tips and tricks of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really interesting is initially the amount of work our lab would receive would go way down. But we'd look at the analytics 4 months later, and they're actually sending more work than they had previous to them gaining that technology in their office.
And why do you think that is?
Because they learn how to do more dentistry, and they figured out what they didn't want to do. And because, they're so appreciative of our relationship and how we approach things, everything came to us.
Didn't want to glaze.
We wanted to help them really utilize their ROI on their CEREC or whatever technology they had, and said, work at the top of your practice or the top of your license, if you will, and figure out, where can you be the most efficient as a clinician and with your staff, and let us take the things that you don't want to be a lab tech. You don't want to be working till midnight. And so, help us take you down the journey of what we think would make you most efficient and what we could help you the most with, and rather than push against it. And so it served us well. Yeah. And they definitely did more dentistry because of it. And I think it allowed them to focus more on the restorative end because they made this investment.
Yeah.
And so I think the mindset shifts on some of those clinicians, and, which is exactly what a lab wants, right? We want them doing more restorative work.
Yep. True.
So what did you do? Get into in-lab? Is that your first?
It was our first, when we started Diamondhead, that was our first technology. It was the in-lab mill, the in-lab Sirona. So that was kind of
three shape.
It was kind of the first thing that we had dove into back when we started Diamondhead.
Let's find out why Diamondhead. What's the name behind that?
Good question. I was curious.
Mike's a professional surfer and hangs out in Hawaii a lot.
We're lying. We're trying to come up with a cool story for the name. To be honest, it just we threw out 100 names and made sure they are available. But, it's just a play on beauty and longevity. And that's kind of no link to Diamondhead, Hawaii. That's the number one question we're asked.
Yeah.
It was more of just a play on, like I said, strength and longevity of diamonds and the beauty.
I was thinking of a burr and the diamond head of a burr.
I was thinking of the most precious stone, personally. I like it. It's cool.
Yeah.
What are some of the names you didn't use? No, I'm just kidding.
Pretty dumb ones, I'm sure.
I'm sure. You came together, you disbanded your individual businesses and then created Diamondhead. Did you stay in that in-office at the time, or did you go out in your own building?
Well, we were in our second location at this time. So
wow.
We were in the building with a couple other dentists, but we had our own suite in the building at this time.
Okay.
And at that time, we decided we dove straight in. We basically threw all of our accounts into Diamondhead and just under a new organization, new lab slips, and started really small. I mean, it was a grind, as you can imagine.
Oh, yeah.
And, I think it's important to say part of the lessons behind that, there's a lot of things happening outside of Diamondhead. We're running other companies that we'd started, the lab's our day job, but we'd started, a lighting company and other little ventures that we got involved in, and, spent a couple Harvard MBA in money and business lessons up to this point.
Yeah.
Having never gotten the MBA. But so that was kind of the precursor to, hey, you know what? The vision started getting bigger and started realizing, hey, we can do this. We have to do this. We don't have a choice. It's consolidating. And we also, I think it's worth mentioning, we started an apprenticeship similar to John's before this. And so we had many students run through about a year program. So we kind of patterned our school after John's school. And that was kind of our first introduction to the closest thing to having employees at the time.
Wow. You gotta backtrack a little bit. So whose idea was that?
Yeah.
And how did that go?
It went really well. I mean, this industry still, I think, is a little bit of a hidden industry. People out there aren't really aware of things that we do. So there's a lot of fascination when we meet people we know, like, well, how do I get into this? And, we originally referred everyone down to John, but he was always booked and they couldn't get in. So it was just like, we did reach a really high level. So they said, well, why don't we just start it?
Wow.
But I'll tell you what, we didn't last, how long we do it? Maybe 5 years?
Yeah.
Because all we did was train our competition. No one abided by the non-compete.
It was brilliant.
Yeah.
The area.
Oh.
So all of these
Yeah.
technicians around here are people we trained.
Oh my
So
God.
we breeded our competition. We thought, well, we probably ought to stop doing that. So
At this point, did you have employees?
Those oftentimes those technicians would be model people, at the time, metal people.
Mhm.
They would become an employee as they were starting their own lab. And we had so many students that filtered through there that we always had available people to do work for us during that whole time.
Yeah.
So kind of free labor?
no, they were paid.
No, we paid them. Yeah.
This is
Okay,
after
good,
their
good, good.
schooling. A lot of them wanted to stay with us and stayed with us for, a period of time, a few years. Some of them wanted to go out and start their own, but they all eventually went out and started their own, most of them. Yeah, but it was a great experience. I mean, it was really fun training. I have a passion for training.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got a passion for training and teaching, obviously, because that's a lot of work
Yeah.
on top of your day
Well,
job.
it inevitably made us better technicians and better owners. That's part of the byproduct of training.
And then how many labs did your students open in Utah? There must be a ton of labs in Utah.
Well,
Between
you
you
This
and
is a good
Archibald?
question. The thing is painful for me to count that. So
Yeah.
Try not to.
Jeez.
Obviously small labs are not as prevalent as they used to be, but I think there's still 3 or 4 that are still successful boutique labs right now that
Nice.
are still, they've gotten a little bit of technology and they're just 2-3 man labs.
Wow.
But, some of them are non-compete, was supposed to be out of state. But if you know me and Darin, sometimes our heart's bigger than our brain. And
Yeah.
so we made so many
Yeah.
exceptions until until once in a while we'd bump into an account and we're like, okay, now, we've got to.
Now I'm pissed.
Exactly.
I was letting it go, but now I'm pissed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're using who? Who do you think taught that guy?
Exactly.
Yeah, it came up quite a bit. It came up, there was
Yeah.
probably, maybe time 6 or 7 within 30 miles of us
Wow.
that opened labs. Yeah.
Yeah.
That had
Yeah,
to
it was.
happen with Archibald too, though, right? I mean, he had to have been in the same situation where he was training his competition.
Yeah.
Well, didn't he
it
train
was-
you?
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't you become a competition?
Well, I think John was in a different. I mean, he was so well known, and
Sure.
a lot of there was so much production going on out of the offices down there, and he knew people all around the country. So I don't think the prices John was charging it is really not conducive to the market in Utah. So he didn't really have a lot of in-state accounts. All of John's accounts are really high end and
Yeah.
out of state.
And
Except
Gordon
except
Christensen.
for the
so-
Christensens, yeah,
Yeah, good people right there, honestly.
yeah.
All right. Sorry, so we took a little track off.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah. Back to Diamond
Yes.
Head. You've got your in lab. You start hiring people?
We did. We just capitalized and got loans and just really went for it. Started marketing, and we were growing. I mean, we've still been growing. Very few years have we not grown. We've tried to control it though, because we understand that it's really important to grow at the right rate, and speed. But yeah, we just started adding employees, brought a couple of strategic partners on for a couple years, bought them back out. They were really great because they had bought and sold multi-million-dollar companies, over and over. So, it was just an education on business and how to deal with employees and navigate that whole world that we'd never been a part of, because it was just us. And, that's easy looking back on it now. What's difficult is understanding how to run a company and how to manage employees. And, culture is our biggest thing in our company.
yeah, we actually heard you guys. We heard you guys talking about culture when we couldn't hear each other just before we started this podcast. And you were actually talking about that. So yeah, let us in on that, because culture is big with us too.
Well, Mike, we're sitting in a podcast studio right now, and it's Mike's son-in-law's. His name's Jason Haugen, and he runs a podcast called Culture Camp. You guys should really look it up. It's really terrific. And
You guys are in a professional podcast booth right now?
yeah.
Sweet.
Wow. It's fancier than we are.
But I'll let Mike explain a little bit about that and, our culture of our lab.
Yeah, so I think we knew we were understanding the concept of culture in a lab and the importance of it. But Jason, my son-in-law, he obviously I had listened to a lot of his podcasts and listened to all kinds of different personalities in business. I mean, he's got some really big names that's been through his podcast in business throughout, the country, and really worldwide names. And some of these guys, so I mean, we have a close relationship. His family's at my house literally, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a week. Jason, he's sitting here. He's running the podcast stuff, but
He's running the board.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he had some really good insight. He also became an expert in disc personalities, and
Oh, I love that.
and he
too.
lectured, and he gave many speeches throughout the nation on that. And so obviously, naturally, I had a resource there and an asset. So we said, we need this. We know this is important to us, but now we can kind of pull it together for Diamondhead, and brought him in to come and coach some managers. And so we had meetings in there and really tried to introduce the managers to buy in, to have the buy-in on the culture and what company culture really means, because it's such a diverse subject.
Yeah.
That means so many things. And it's easy to talk about good culture, but to have good culture is a whole nother story. And I think it's a journey. It's never a destination in a company. I don't think we're ever going to achieve the exact culture we want, but I think as long as you're working on it and you're at least continuing to improve, I think that's where you're going to see the ROI from a company, and you're going to see it literally all the way down to your bottom line. And that's what we've discovered in our company. And so it's really setting the vision for, it's not just about Diamondhead's visions. Like, if our employees' visions don't fit in with Diamondhead's, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So we have to really bring it together and make sure that, our vision's largely based on our employees, like not having glass ceilings. We want employees to be confident, but we don't want them always comfortable. We want them, we want to find their skill set. If they fail, we fail.
Yeah.
We failed as leaders if they fail. And so sometimes we repurpose them into their strengths, but we also want them to know we don't want you comfortable, because people aren't happy when they're not growing. And so you need to be uncomfortable to grow. And so people often ask, well, where's your end goal with Diamondhead? How big do you want to be? And I said, really depends on the journey of the employees, because that's the reason we grow. We grow to give them opportunities, and we grow with the technology that kind of demands the growth. And so it kind of organically happens. It has to happen all together, following that North Star.
So you take your managers through this culture. Is it like a culture of accountability, or like what? Explain it to me a little bit, because it's got to be the managers and then down. So they learn what?
Yeah, the managers really have to buy into our culture. So, cultures for me is more important than skill, because we can train skill, but you can't train personality or energy or, people really buying into what you're doing. So Jason's, taught us a lot that we've passed down, and he's been there doing workshops with us. And so it is a culture of accountability and having people really buying into what our vision is.
Mm-hmm.
And like Mike said, aligning their vision with ours.
Well, how many people are in your lab now? How big is this culture?
Oh, we're approaching almost 40, mid-30s. So we're not
Yeah.
a huge
Hi.
lab.
No,
Big.
no.
Yeah, big enough. I feel like a counselor, though.
Oh yeah,
Um,
sure. Yeah, you can't be a leader without being a counselor.
Yeah. So, but as you guys all know, it's sometimes you take 2 steps back to take a step forward, and that's the game we play, as we try and grow. But, it's all about people. We're trying to really surround ourselves with the best people and build an ecosystem of value adds for our doctors. So our lab is based on value adds. And if you picture us in the middle with this ecosystem connected to us, we want to be a first resource for our doctors in every way that you can imagine. If they need staffing, they call Mike or Darin, and we have those connections to help them, or financing for their patients. So we're not a lab that just drops a commodity off. We want to be a partner to our doctors, an extension of their staff. And so that means we have to know everything they know. And that brings us to, the big value adds like the Diamondhead Institute, our PACE accredited education center, and all these things that we do. So all that kind of builds into the culture of our lab. And we really have to train our employees on what we're all about and try and get them outside the walls to see the impact they're having with patients, taking them to, chairside visits and helping them really understand what they're doing for people.
Wow.
You just touched upon a few things that seem very interesting to me. So you help patients finance?
Well, we don't personally have our own finance company, but we have the connection. So what I want to do is have partnerships and layered over Diamondhead so we can be a resource to our doctors, regardless of their problem. So our goal and our mission statement at Diamondhead is to increase the revenue of the practices that we work with, or be a part of that. And how does the lab do that when we're the biggest bill?
Yeah.
Right?
That's so true. Yes.
But we have pulled it off because we have the partnerships and the layers over Diamondhead to help our offices. And, a lot of them don't take advantage of it because they're doing great, but a lot of them do take advantage of it. We have technology experts out there for free, helping them with their cone beam machines, or helping them introduce the technology that we want them to have in their office, because we're all about technology now. I feel like we're on the bleeding edge and very quick to adopt the new technology and introduce it. We just launched our photogrammetry workflows 6 months ago. We provide everything: iCam, scanners. We have a scanner program. We give scanners away, but we just want to help them grow and be successful in their practices. So whether it's consultants or partnerships, like people like with Crown Council, or a resource partner with them, those type of relationships are really what we want to have available for our doctors, and especially the young ones that are just starting.
Yeah.
Here's maybe a good example, because you had a great question. How are you the first resource? Darin's touched on the ecosystem, and it's not just about bringing in partnerships. It's about discovering, we stay up late at night thinking, how can we be, like most labs, how can we be a better partner? But We truly
Yeah.
want the word partnership is a really unique word in this industry because, oftentimes labs are, sought as the enemy more than the partner. And we try not to have that in our lab. We're very grateful for the paychecks that come from those clinicians and try to have that, hey, let's not have a negative attitude towards office staff and office managers and, clinicians make mistakes. We get it. But at the end of the day, let's be grateful for the industry, be grateful for them, giving us what we have. And also let's try to help them be better clinicians. We don't point fingers. We don't say, hey, this was your fault. We're going to charge you a remake. We literally say it's your job to fix their problem. And I don't care if it's their fault. Maybe we need to help them with a technique, on impression taking, or maybe we need to figure out why the scan was wrong and go in there and help them scan, whatever it takes. We're there to make them successful. And so it's a mindset change. And, even to the point where we're partnered and on boards and have equity in software companies, all in the effort to go into a doctor and say, hey, we have a software now that we're partnered with to help you with case acceptance or to help you with education from doctors, or, here you can have a technology to give you a welcome video to send out to your patients in a text, or, there's all these different things that the different companies were trying to seek out to be involved with, all in the effort to make the doctors more profitable and to make them more successful, even to the point of a DSO. We work with DSOs too. And so we have to think, well, what do we need to do from a business aspect? Giving doctors a crown's a commodity. Anyone can give a doctor a zirconia crown. That's really, in my mind, that's not the value.
Right.
Value is, how do you have a true partner in this industry you can lean on to make you better? And they make us better too. It's not a one-way street.
But how do you scale that and not charge for it without increasing your fees, or do you?
Maybe we aren't good business guys. I don't know.
It just seems like to have that resource to be able to go out there and help chairside, that takes a lot of person power and hours to commit to that.
It's strategic. It depends on the opportunity. Oftentimes, the one-to-many thing.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on whether it's dental groups, depends on a lot of the time the need. We're presented with a need and we're just trying to stand behind our mission statement, stand behind, being that partner. But I feel like it comes back in referrals. It comes back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we see it in our financials for sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and we do charters. We don't go chairside for free. We have resources that we don't charge the doctor for, but that's part of their job titles and job descriptions and things that it's hard to track the ROI on that sometimes, but we know it's there because we found success, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I swear it's building relationships. And when you build that
It's all about that.
relationship and they trust you, like, you're going to grow and you're going to get referrals and they're going to say, these guys are amazing and these are all the things that they do. And I think it's just a ripple effect personally.
Yeah. And we count on that, in our education center. We want to provide top notch, really great education. That's not, when we partner with Nobel or whoever it is, every C course usually has a partner unless we're doing it ourselves or with an individual surgeon. But we try and, we're very strategic and let them know this is not a sales pitch, because those doctors need to go home with those nuggets and those really important things that they can actually utilize in their practice.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and we don't charge a lot. We want to offer that education so they don't have to travel. And that's how we build our relationship.
That's mostly doctor education. So you're bringing in docs to your building and giving them education, or is it technical?
100%.
Wow.
100% doctors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do staffing for, some of the assistants and staffs will come to certain CE events. We've had, and it's business for doctors. It's not just clinical CE. We'll bring in business CE. We'll bring in, a variety. But like Darin said, at the end of the day, we want them to feel like they had a value. They just didn't check off the box of continuing education credits. We want them to actually come to the next event and tell the other doctors, like, hey, this has really helped my practice. It's, you get fed with a fire hose. If you can take one little thing and implement it,
Yep.
then you're way ahead of the game, because how often do these guys actually implement CE things into the practice? I don't from my experience, it's not real often unless it's extremely meaningful and something that they can actually go the next week and implement.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually riding off a vacation, isn't it? I mean, isn't that how most of it is?
But we do our events live and Zoom at the same time.
Oh, cool.
It's a unique structure, so that allows our accounts from all over the country to join and get those CE credits and be a part of the event if they can't travel. So it's worked out really well. Our education director, his name's Landon, and he does a really great job of pulling those events off seamlessly. So yeah, it's been really good. It's a lot of work, but very, very well worth it.
Yeah.
How often do you do these events? Once a month, or?
We went back and forth. We found that once a month is a little bit too often.
Yeah, I would think so. Every 3?
Yeah, so every 2 months.
Yeah.
We're probably doing them about every other month, and
Yeah.
everyone wants to do it. So sometimes we try and squeeze them in, and we're like, man, sometimes you have a conflict of interest. You can't market a Nobel event on top of a Strawman event at the same time,
no
right?
doubt.
Yeah.
So you got to space them out, but we vet them. We try and have really, really great events, and I think that we do. Yeah, we've had a lot of good feedback.
I'm curious, so you two as partners/brothers, how do you guys stay ahead of the curve? Do you guys meet and just do like a think tank with yourself or others every 6 months or year, or do you have like a 2-year goal, 3-year goal? How do you stay so above the curve? Because it really sounds like you guys have a great relationship, but also are moving your company in a forward direction just so quickly.
It's a grind.
Yeah.
It is. But you mentioned, how do you meet? Do you have? I'll tell you a story. One of the most impactful things we did in growing Diamondhead is we had a retreat. So at the time there was 3. I mean, we've had ownership up to 5. We're back down to me and Darin. We bought them all out, but we had at the time.
There were 5 owners at one time?
There were 5 with,
Wow.
I mean, it was more a couple board members and 3 at the time. But at the time, we had 3 owners at the time, a couple board members at the time that were offsite. We had a retreat. And so we went and rented a cabin up in Wolf Creek, Utah. And we spent 2 days. We locked ourselves in a room, and with the exception of a couple meals, and literally hammered out a new North Star, had sticky notes from ceiling to floor, literally on 3 walls in the room.
Yep.
And we threw out every single idea that 3 of us could muster up, 12-hour spurts without a break.
Yeah.
And then just started organizing them into priorities. And, that became kind of the first visionary meeting. And so we've had a couple of similar things like that since. But it was just a retreat to really set our focus and come up with that common North Star and make sure that, we don't always agree, but when we have an idea, we rally around it, and we agree that majority wins, and we rally around that idea, and we put all of our energy into it. And then try to find, the whole SWOT analysis and find out where our risks are, find out, the biggest thing in momentum is really finding out how to best utilize your energy and momentum. And it's really tempting as a company. That's why these retreats were so important, because you get so many opportunities as you grow and the name grows. But, the mistakes of the past is you felt like a need that you're always growing a company to get opportunities. So when they start coming, you feel like you have to take them all. That was a mistake.
Yeah, you got to.
Oftentimes they became nothing but rabbit holes rather than opportunities that lost our focus on that North Star. And so nowadays we've gotten a little better at, if this doesn't fit into our vision, it's not for us. And we can say no now.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah, I think that first retreat, we were there 48 hours and we only slept 4 hours.
Yeah.
But
it was amazing. I'll tell you what, there's more accomplished than those. It would have taken us 8 months if we wouldn't have done that to get to where we were. So we've learned, how to be efficient with things like that.
Well, that's why I asked the question, because it always seems like really good leadership. They've got a long-term goal, short-term goal, but it takes time away from the business itself to go and lock yourself in that type of room and talk about all of those things and then organize them. And then, so I'm assuming you guys do that every year, maybe every 2 years.
Yeah, we try and do it once a year.
Yeah.
And we really map out the entire year in that meeting.
Yeah.
literally down to, every detail.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, when you talk about how do we stay on the bleeding edge or the cutting edge, it's surrounding yourself with the right people. We're not the smartest people in the room. We have to, and it's the younger generation that's really helped us with technology. Landon's sitting here, our COO, and he's been super impactful in Diamondhead. And I don't know really what direction we'd be, but we need those young, bright minds to help us really understand where things are going within just the world, not just the industry, because I'm not of the generation where softwares are intuitive to me.
Right.
And I do understand the power of technology now, but for a long time I didn't. So having someone help us really navigate that, and a lot of these ideas are not ours. They're from the great people that we have at Diamondhead.
Nice.
Yeah, but can Landon hand wax every tooth? That's the question.
No, not even one.
He knows what a tooth is.
That's the exact perspective we need, because we get stuck in our own echo chambers.
Sure.
Yeah, I need that perspective. So one thing about us is we really have great people. We're really proud of the people that work, and we value our employees at a really high level. And I hope they feel that and trust us and trust our vision, because they need to trust what we're doing so they buy in. But for me, it's all about people. What I've learned, and it's probably spans all companies, it's all about the people. You have to have really good people.
And when you become our age, priorities do change, life changes you. And, to have an opportunity to improve the lives of people, I don't want to sound disingenuous on that. We have to make a profit, and we have to grow, and we have to achieve our goals. But my hope is that along the journey, we can improve the lives of the people at Diamondhead. So that gives much more of a why and a purpose, which I think inevitably, if you don't have that, it's hard to be successful.
Yeah.
But that's also going to, in turn, do those first two things and help you gain that profit, because the people are going to be so well received at helping you accomplish that.
Yep, it starts with taking care of them first.
Yeah. But you mentioned earlier photogrammetry. You're just now getting into that. Are you doing the full arch? You go into offices with the photogrammetry, with the intraoral scanners, and doing it all?
Our goal is, again, I think it's really important for doctors to have people to lean on. That side, those procedures intimidate a lot of clinicians, or they have been taught they're not profitable, and there's a lot of problems. And in the analog world, that's true. We've all been there. I don't know how many hundreds, thousands of conversions I've done, but I would always come back like, wow, I haven't seen that before. And you think you've seen everything. Or been in every situation or stressful, situation in those circumstances, and there's always something new that happens. So yes, we have we bring all the technology, everything. So if a doctor wants to do one of these cases, we bring it all, whether it's scanners, printers, iCams.
Wow.
And make the transition for them very simple, and they can truly just lean on us. And I want them to be so comfortable if they don't even know that they're okay doing a case with us, and they can learn along the way.
You roll in with a printer?
Well, that's what we're going to be doing right now.
That's cool.
Because they all want a same day temp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they get a little bit too far away from us, that becomes more difficult. So, and I want to introduce that technology because I want them to have it eventually. And if they see the success of it, it's not hard to bring those products and set it up and do that. So
there's a high percentage of them that do have printers too. And
sure.
Yeah.
We want to help them utilize it. Sometimes they don't utilize them, and they're like, we want you guys to do this, characterize it. And, this is new. We want to do the least amount and just focus on the surgery, or just focus on the restorative end of seating them and having the success. But we've noticed it's kind of a journey and a transition. Just not all clinicians are equal or at the same starting point when it comes to diving into this kind of stuff. So it's nice to have someone that, we say, hey, we'll hold your hand from step 1 through Z, or, we'll fill in the blanks for you. You do what you do.
Wow.
Do you still do conventional conversions, or you switch everybody to the printed?
Well, no, whatever the doctor wants. So it's really interesting. When we started this, when doctors become very comfortable and they don't like change, and when something works, it doesn't make a lot of sense for them to change, even if it is better sometimes, or
sure.
We all know the accuracy of, an iCam and those processes. So if they don't want to utilize that technology, we'll still come in and do analog. We're here for them, and they're the doctors and they're the ones making those choices. So I just want to have everything available, but we're definitely pushing it, and we're not doing a lot of chairside analog conversions anymore, but there are still doctors that want those and haven't quite bought into all this new technology, and they just like the workflows with what they found success in. So I don't want to take that away from them. That can also be a success. But of course, the efficiencies aren't there, and you're opening yourself up to some more pitfalls when you do analog. But it's been really great. Yeah. The power of photogrammetry is real. And, we fly to California, and we work with groups, and they'll schedule 5 patients, 8 arches in one day, and we'll see all those temps in one day.
Wow.
So we have our designers on call, and they're designing, and we're out there characterizing, helping scan, and helping those cases be successful and doing that many arches. Now that's not really possible in the analog world to do something like that.
Is that the 2 of you, or do you bring a technician? I mean, are you guys that hands-on still? That's amazing.
It's just one. It's just either.
I mean, it's a funny story. Just last Monday, it was the 2 of us that went out, and one of us, being Mike, ended up having the flu and spent the entire day in the hotel room. So Darin was on his own the whole time and managed it great.
Wow.
How many arches did you do that day?
8. Yeah.
That's impressive.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 patients, 8 arches. So they, I think they have 6 or 7 ops, and we really figured out a great system. But I'm there just to, I bring my iCam, our scanner. So we got a couple iCams going, a couple scanners. They have a really great team, and we just go from patient to patient. It's pretty crazy. Start at 6:30 in the morning, and we usually leave 7, maybe 8 if we have some issues or something. So it's a long day, but those are huge days for those docs.
It's huge days for the lab too.
Yeah, and the lab, yeah.
And we have our designer, keep in mind, we have in-lab designers that are devoted to these. They're scheduled on our schedule to be able to be there the whole day on hand for these things.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, our head designer's terrific. I mean, things don't always go well. So there's been times where he's there till 7, 8 o'clock at night, still designing and helping in those situations. But, that's a pretty big ask to have days like that. And we probably wouldn't have done it in days past because of really demanding the quality. And so we just want to make sure that all of those experiences still stand behind what we stand for with Diamondhead, which is always a challenge, where efficiency meets profitability, that meets quality. And so, there's all of that we're juggling in the middle of all this. A lot of thought goes into how do we still maintain who we are, because it's really tempting for labs to, and we got caught up into that game early on, and everything, there's something sexy another lab's doing. Let's incorporate that. We're idiots because we're not doing this. And we've learned very quickly that, we just got to stay within our own vision. So,
yep. I love that. That's so true. And it sounds like it's working very successfully for you guys. We have not talked to another lab that's flying into a clinician's office and doing 8 arches in a day.
Yeah, it's unique. I mean, you have to have a lot of confidence you can pull it off before you suggest anything like that.
Yeah, sure. That's my point.
But, that's the power of this technology. It's if you can really tap into it and utilize it, you can offer a lot of value and, gain the confidence in those offices and those surgeons and dentists and staff. But yeah, it's been really good. And we just had a big program on it last week, just on photogrammetry, and we have so many assets now with documenting the surgeries and pictures and the lives being changed. There's just a vast amount we can talk about. And we've figured out the pitfalls in photogrammetry, just like we figured them out in analog, because there are pitfalls.
Right.
So when you get to do that many cases in a day, week after week, you really start to understand what works, what doesn't, what to look out for, what creates the accuracies, things like that.
Yeah. You mean there's pitfalls with technology? What?
Yeah.
So what's next for Diamondhead? What's the next big thing?
I think you go through phases of growth and reestablishing new processes, reestablishing new workflows. I think now it's, I mean, we've been in a growth mode. We're in a growth mode, but we have to be careful and always take those moments to stabilize and, grow, stabilize. So, we're kind of in a hybrid of that right now. Sometimes you don't get to choose your timing when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely not. Yeah.
Sometimes you do. I mean, we have had to hold the door back. We've had to pass on some opportunities. And wisely, in hindsight, it hurts. It's painful to pass on opportunities at times. And I think that's where the discipline comes in. We've had to be extremely disciplined to let go of some things just to make sure that, again, we're staying within the vision that we set out to do. It served us well. And sometimes that's the challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in the mode right now of really just taking care of our accounts and making sure we're putting our best foot forward every day.
Awesome.
We've had reps that's been out there at this moment. We brought that back in-house, and Gabby, who you spoke with, is an integral part of our company, and she's kind of taken on that role. But it's more about, for us right now, just customer retention and organic growth.
Love it.
Yeah.
You all have an amazing story and just love what you're doing and the mission statement, the North Star and all that. I love it.
Well, thanks. Yeah, nothing ever goes perfect. I'm sure we've had every problem that every other lab has had. So,
For sure.
We do want to be a destination for people within the industry, and we don't hold things close to our vest. I really enjoy talking to other lab technicians and brainstorming. And so, we welcome anyone out there who wants to collaborate with us. I do believe that's where we fell behind as an industry early on when I started. And back in the early days, competition was too high and people didn't share. And I think it really hurt us. And it was a race to the bottom.
Yeah, that's what caused it.
And I think if we take a different approach, it helps us maintain things that we do and have the things that we do appreciated. The hard work that we all put into this.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We appreciate it.
Good luck to you both.
Yeah. Love to do it again in the future. Check back in with you guys. So
yeah, absolutely.
We follow you guys, and you guys do a really great job. It's a really great resource out there for everybody. So thank you guys for what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
No, thanks. We appreciate that. And hopefully we'll see you at Cal Lab.
Cal Lab Day. See you in
Yes, you will.
Yep. Awesome.
So I look forward to coming, saying hello, and meeting in person.
Yes.
Perfect.
I don't know why I haven't. I walked by your booth, watch you do your podcast, the lab day stuff, and I'm always so busy running around. I haven't stopped in to introduce ourselves. So
we get it.
Again, thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. You guys have a good weekend. Thank
you too. Thanks.
A huge thanks to Darin and Mike for coming on our podcast to talk about you guys' journey and the story of Diamondhead Dental Lab, which I really love that name. We love hearing about bench technicians that grow to provide a positive culture that allows other technicians to work while keeping the same importance of passion and quality that you guys share. It's really, honestly, so cool how you take the time every year to make out plans to always make sure the lab is following your North Star. You guys really inspired me, just saying. Thanks again, Darin and Mike. We will see you at Cal Lab in February.
That's all we got for you, everybody. And we will talk to you next week.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
Not yet.
Go watch the movie. Celebrate. Have a good one.
Bye.
I've got my hat on. I got my bells on.
It's not even December yet. The views and opinions expressed on the Voices from the Bench podcast are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the host or Voices from the Bench, LLC.